Welcome to Focus Forward podcast. Live from Bangkok, I am Mika Pyhämäki, your host, CEO and business coach. Ready and excited to welcome you to this new Growth Playbook for modern thinkers and future leaders. In each episode, we discuss and share real-life stories and business inspiration around the world. And today, I had a great pleasure to discuss with Mr. Jari Hietala about trade promotion and international relationships and growth. So when you're watching this episode, pay attention and listen up how he has utilized his 30 years of experience to help others in the region and how he has found his passion and way of life in Asia and doing things that he really enjoys. And because we are just getting started, I hope that everyone likes and comments and subscribes to the podcast because all your feedback is super important. But anyway, let's get started. Enjoy the show. Okay, Mr. Jari Hietala, welcome to Focus Forward podcast.
Thank you very much. Pleasure for me to be here.
And as a way to get started, maybe you can a little bit introduce yourself.
All right. So like maybe many people recognize from my name, I'm originally from Finland, like you.
Absolutely.
So we both just have ended up living here in Thailand. I came here for the first time already in 1994, so 30 years ago. It's a long time, but I haven't been living here, continuously. The first stretch was about 4 years. Then we moved to Thailand from Belgium. I used to be the managing director of a Finnish machinery company in Belgium, but we used to trade a lot with Asia. And as a young man, as a young business person, the first times that I had an opportunity to visit Thailand and the other countries in Asia, it left a long-lasting, probably everlasting impact on me. I thought that actually even after my first trip to Asia, I thought that if I ever get an opportunity to come and live and work in this part of the world, I will do so immediately. And I think many people like me, we make knowing and unknowing decisions on a daily basis. Small things, and which actually kind of add up, and at the end, the opportunity comes. And when it did come in 1994, I decided to take it. But it was a bit strange step for me because I was in the private sector, like I said, managing director of a Finnish machinery company. But then I became the trade commissioner of Finland. So I was officially part of the Finnish embassy, representing the Finnish commercial interests in Thailand. But like I said, that lasted about 4 years. Then we moved back to Finland after living abroad for 8 years. It was a bit of a culture shock to go back after 8 years, particularly from a long distance country like Thailand, warm country, to the middle of the Finnish winter in January 98. But it was interesting time. Those 2 years in Finland educated me a lot because the organization, the Finnish trade promotion organization that was called Finpro those years, went through a drastic transformation. So at the same time, we were tearing down old structures and building new. So it was extremely challenging. I was one of the senior vice presidents of the organization. Had a global responsibility of one industry sector, being forest, energy, and environment. Anyway, that lasted about 2 years, and when the opportunity to move back to work abroad came 2 years later, we relocated back to the UK where we used to live in my earlier part of my career. I became the head of Finland's trade promotion in Western Europe, so headquartered in London. So the region covered all the Western European countries. So our job was to support Finnish companies, mostly the smaller scale companies, medium-sized companies, to enter those markets. And then 5 years later, in the year 2005, I got an opportunity to move back to Thailand. And it took me like 1 nanosecond to decide to accept the opportunity. And we've been in Asia ever since. So I became the head of Finpro's Asia region. So at that time I had a team of 60 consultants and market analysts scattered all over Asia, maybe 50% of them in China. China used to be, well, still is, I guess, but used to be even more important target market for Finnish exporters and also investors during those years. So kind of naturally, China was the focus country. But we had offices in all these countries: China, India, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, all the ASEAN countries, Australia, so forth. So extremely interesting period of time. It enabled me to learn a lot about the business in many countries, not only the country where I happen to live, being Thailand. For the first 5 years it was Thailand, then we moved to Hong Kong, where we lived with my wife another 6 years before returning for the third time back to Bangkok in 2017, when I started my own consulting business. So that's what I do nowadays. So I'm the managing partner of a pan-Asian consulting network called Asian Insiders.
And I guess that's what brought us together. So
I think so, yes.
Talking about this very interesting topic, that how to do business in this region.
Yes.
And on the other hand, your long experience and also the stories that you obviously have, those it's been really interesting to hear those. We met a few times, so I'm really glad to have you.
It's my pleasure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Asian Insiders, tell us a little bit about that and where your focus is with the insiders.
We are a network of 13 partners. So we basically cover the entire continent of Asia through our own resources. I would say we are grumpy old men, too old. We are all very experienced, probably even too experienced.
Does it make you grumpy?
Maybe not, but it would be nice to have some ladies and younger blood in our team, hopefully. Well, it's not only the grumpy old men, but the partners of Asian Insiders. We are very senior. I'm myself 64 years old, and I'm not even the oldest one in the team. But that's what we are. So we help companies, typically European or North American tech companies, to either enter the Asian markets or the ones who already are here, which is actually majority of our clients. They are already in at least somewhere in Asia, but have recognized that maybe they can do better. And that's where we step in. And the fact that we are in all these countries makes us also country independent. Unlike, if you are a Thailand-based consultant, you are not interested in what's happening in Malaysia or what's happening in Vietnam. Your only interest is to attract your clients to come to Thailand. And we don't work like that. We take our clients to countries where it makes sense for them to go to, or actually even stay away. Because sometimes it's a $1 million advice, literally, to say that you are not ready for Asia. Your products are not suitable for Asia for whatever reason. So that's what we are, that's what we do. I'm just personally based here in Thailand, but we have a Thai partner who takes care of the Thai market. This is just my home base, this is a good place to live, inexpensive, I enjoy life here. So why not Thailand?
Really good. So you got your priorities straight and right. Yes. over the years. So great to be here in Bangkok. And Sunny's, let me ask a personal question in the beginning now, because sun is rising from the east. We are a few hours ahead of Europe and US. But what does a typical day look like for you here in Bangkok? What happens?
That's a good question. I think being in a consulting business as such makes your days very, very different. It's a fantastic learning opportunity because there are no similar days. What I'm doing today is not going to be the same what I will be doing tomorrow. It comes from the fact that our clients come from different countries, their contexts are different, their challenges are different. So it's really a tremendous learning opportunity. But typically, because of the time differences, the morning hours of any day, it's more dedicated to talking to people in Asia, of course. And when Europe wakes up, then the email starts to fly and there are conferences and webinars and what have you, reporting sessions with the clients. And later in the evening when the USA wakes up, then a little bit too often I start my webinars or meetings with clients at 10 o'clock at night, which is not necessarily very funny, but business is business.
That's truly a global mindset.
Yeah, well, in that respect, yes, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so you have a long background and long experience in trade promotion and these international relations. So I would like to kind of take a high-level perspective first and ask you that what is the best way for countries and governments to support this type of companies that are actually expanding or aiming to new markets?
How many days do we have to go through this?
We have some minutes, but we'll do our best to.
Yeah, well, this is my kind of a favorite topic for me. I happen to be a board member in Finland's Management Consultants Association, and we have very close links in Finland to the governmental organizations which are supporting Finnish exporters, and also attracting the investments to Finland. But we also deal a lot with Switzerland, Ireland, USA, many other countries. So it's not only Finland, even when I happen to come from Finland. Obviously, part of my heart is beating for Finland. So I do enjoy supporting particularly the Finnish companies or the Finnish government, if you like, in addition, to succeed. But what I have learned over the years of these trade promotion organizations is that majority of them are first of all funded 100% by the local taxpayers. So it's government organization. Some of them strictly under the umbrella of the embassies, like in Thailand, the embassies of Italy, so forth. Some are organized under the umbrella of chambers of commerce, like Germany and Austria. It's a bit strange in these countries because even if you're like a hairdressing saloon, you are obliged to belong to the local chamber of commerce and you pay a contribution to fund the operations. And such companies have absolutely nothing to do with Thailand, for instance. But anyway, that's the second way of doing it. The third category are companies or countries where there is a separate trade promotion organization. In Finland, it's called Business Finland nowadays. It used to be called Finpro. It was partly government funded. Finpro used to get 50% of the funding, approximately 50% from the government, to subsidize the services, which kind of enabled Finland to have an extremely large network of industry experts all over the world. So, but the remaining 50% was kind of the contribution of the Finnish industry to finance the same platform.
So the companies were actively involved in...
Very actively involved, and we in Finpro, we treated the money coming from the companies as really as a contribution. It wasn't business, obviously, because if 50% of the money comes from the government, it was never intended to be a business. But having said that, the fees of our services were based on market prices. So if there was let's say a company whose turnover was €1 million, a small company, and they wanted to come to Thailand, they would have to pay for the market entry advisory work for Finpro, fees that were somewhere around 40,000-50,000 euros. So it's big enough money to take it seriously, because no company would pay just for fun such money. So they are serious, these companies who pay for these services, who used to pay for these services.
Usually that creates the commitment.
Absolutely, both ways. So we have the pressure to provide value. And it's in all consulting work, the companies, when they use consultants, they buy hope for the better future, right?
Absolutely.
And if we are not able to deliver that value, it will be the end of the story. There will be no continuing assignments. And it was the same during the Finpro years. But then, unfortunately, what happened in case of Finland, that the government put their fingers into the export promotion and decided to separate the chargeable consulting work that Finpro was doing and sell it. It was kind of incorporated and sold to a third party. And the remaining Finpro, which is nowadays called Business Finland, is 100% funded by Finnish taxpayers. And this is usually the case also with other countries. They are government funded even if they are operating as independent entities, typically abroad, officially parts of the embassy. So they have the diplomatic status, which in this part of the world helps. There is no denying, because it opens doors and it creates credibility. And it's also from the point of view of when we want to speak to, let's say, local companies, if we contact Thai companies from the Finnish embassy, there is the impression they get that we are not trying to sell them anything, which is in a way wrong, because we do try to sell. But anyway, it's easier to approach companies, and it's far easier to approach public sector organizations when we do it under the name of the embassies. And it's the same for every other country too. But the problem with these government-funded TPOs, trade promotion organizations, Business Finland included nowadays, is the fact that what they do is very generic. They provide generic market information. They provide contacts, which they happen to have. And they open doors to typically public sector organizations for companies. They organize events. I was just this week attending Monday, Tuesday, several events, because the Minister for Foreign Trade of Finland is visiting Thailand.
Ville
Tavio, yes.
Met him also yesterday, actually.
Did you? All right.
I think the topic was on point. It wasn't, although they're promoting the circular
economy,
clean tech companies, and the topics are around circular economy. Still, the topic yesterday in minister's speech was around the relationship between Thailand and Finland, and also why Finland is the most happy country in the world.
7th time in a year.
Over
the years.
The rankings.
Yeah. But anyway, what I want to say is that type of generic services are as such useful, valuable, because what happens is that companies get information. They get it's a kind of a teaser what they do. You know, it should open up their eyes that, hey, Thailand could be an interesting market for us. Why didn't I look at it before? So that's the value of that work. But what I would like to say, I mean, if particularly from the point of view of a small country like Finland or any of the Nordic countries, the smaller European countries, we are small. We have small resources compared to the big countries. If we can do generic export promotion, so can everybody else. It doesn't provide any competitive advantage. And when the Germans or the US trade promotion organizations do similar things, it's massively bigger. So it's never enough. So companies need additional services. And we know from experience, and it's been also verified by a number of scientific studies, that the one reason why many smaller companies have difficulties to be successful in international markets is based on lack of management skills.
Really?
And, you know, under that kind of category of management skills, you have millions of things, details, really starting from the strategy. Is there even a strategy? Many SMEs, their strategy is questionable. It's typically one A4, which is empty slogans, unfortunately. Questions like, which market should I go to? Where are the best opportunities for us? You would be surprised to know how companies sometimes choose the markets. It's unbelievable. Then how do you actually sell in countries? Because if you are successful in Thailand or if you are successful in Malaysia, it doesn't mean that with the same business model you will be successful in the neighboring country. So you really have to know the markets deep enough. And all these things are something that the embassies and the trade promotion organizations are completely unable to provide. It simply isn't there. And unfortunately, since 1994, when I started this type of work, I haven't seen any change for the better.
But I remember you telling about some, like a big project that you used to have, or big ambitious goal of 300 success stories. Was it within 3 years? That was kind of a guideline or an attempt at least to fix this and measure success. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, then being a consultant, it's a bit like being a doctor. You know, when the company comes to you or the patient comes to you, if you're a doctor, what you have to do is to make a diagnosis. So where does it hurt? Where are the pain points? And what I have learned, basically every consultant have learned in this business, is that there is a big difference between what the companies tell you that they need, what they want, what they genuinely need. It's very, very rare to have a company who comes to Thailand for the first time who would know exactly what needs to be done in order to create commercial success. They have a vision. They want to have a partner. And they want to reach so and so many millions of Thai baht revenues from the market, but very little understanding. What does it take for them to achieve their goals? So we recognized that when we worked with Finpro, as a Finpro. And as part of the revenues did come from the commercial side of the affairs, we needed to dig much deeper into genuinely understanding what the companies need for their commercial success. And it changed our KPIs. The number one KPI, 2013, 2014, this change took place. It became Business Finland. But until then, the last 2 years, I guess it was, we set for ourselves voluntarily, proactively, a target, and we went to publicity with it. We want to create 300 success stories for Finnish companies in 3 years. And the success was defined jointly with the companies. So we sat down with our clients and we discussed that after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, how would success look like for you? What do you need to achieve? Or what do we need to achieve together? And that was very bold. Now when you look at the traditional KPIs of publicly funded TPOs like Business Finland, they measure volume of their own work. They measure how many meetings they've organized, how many events they've organized, how many business leads they have forwarded to Finnish companies and so forth, but they are not measuring the impact at all.
Do you think the difference is not having skin in the game, or not being that tied to, or that the clients are not, the relationship with customers is different?
I think
why do you think that kind of KPIs exist?
That's a good question. I don't really have a good answer to that. I think it's probably a combination of many factors. One being that maybe a bit unknowingly, at least partly unknowingly, they are aware that what they do is not going to be enough for the commercial success in any case. So they have the fear maybe to set up such targets which would really measure the impact of the service and the commercial success of their advisory work, right? So that might be one of the reasons. But it tends to be typical for the government sectors that they measure kind of internal matters rather than client satisfaction, not to mention the impact.
But we want to create success, and we want to create success stories,
Yes,
right?
yes, indeed.
So let's talk about that. So when companies actually decide to enter or grow their operations here in Asian region, what are some typical challenges that they need to solve first? Where should they start?
Well, at the end of the day, I think in any company, in any project, the starting point is the genuine competitive advantages. I think it was Jack Welch, the famous CEO of GM, who said in one of his speeches that if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. It's as simple as that. And if you think about European or Western companies coming to Asia, we are typically representing the high end of the spectrum when it comes to the technologies. So we are rarely, if never, the cheapest. We can't survive if we sell our products at the low prices. There are exceptions to the rule, but most companies are like that. So it's a question of selling with other arguments, not price. Then the question is that, are those arguments something that the local customers appreciate? Are they ready to pay for it, the price that they would expect? So that's the number one starting point, that there has to be a clearly documented, very cleverly thought competitive advantage that can be verified. It can be verified for any company. The starting point that it's documented in the first place. Because companies typically talk about the quality. Our products are better quality, they last longer and stuff like that. But they don't speak about the tangible benefits for the end customer. And that's the basis of the competitive advantages. What does it mean for a Thai company if somebody from Switzerland comes to Thailand, wants to sell an expensive piece of machinery for which it would be easy to find 3 times cheaper Chinese alternatives? How do you compete against such a...
Great. So we start with competitive advantage.
That's the starting
understanding
point.
That very clearly,
Yes.
documenting it.
Yes.
What next?
Then it's the question of the right market. Because Asia is extremely heterogeneous. Even Thailand and Malaysia, being neighboring countries, are completely different. What sells well in Malaysia doesn't necessarily sell well in Thailand, or vice versa. And there is no standard answer to the question. If you ask me that where are the best markets in Asia, I can't answer that. There is no answer, because it doesn't exist. It really depends completely on the company, the products, the strategy, the choices, and the kind of criteria that will determine which market for us or for a particular product or service is the best market. But again, it can be identified. It must be based on facts, not assumptions. Like I said earlier, that you would be surprised to hear stories how companies sometimes choose the target markets.
But let's say that company is able to define the competitive advantage and then decide that this is the market we are going after. Then is probably what happens next? How do companies find their first customers?
Yeah, that would be the next step then.
Okay, so I got that right.
let's assume here that there is a competitive advantage that has been verified, and Thailand would have been selected as a target market, a priority market. So next question is, how do we tackle this? How do we come to the market? So you have plentiful choices. The most common way of selling for Europeans, also Americans, but not for Japanese or Koreans. It's a completely different strategy. But for, let's say, Westerners, the most common way of entering the market is through business partners. So they need to have a Thai partner. Or alternatively, set up their own office, or maybe even consider manufacturing, which is often one of the most important reasons why companies succeed in Asia. They have local manufacturing. The products have been adapted to the local conditions better in such a way that the production also takes place here. The transportation distances are shorter, and most likely the margins, sales margins, are better than if the products would be made far away from here, like Europe or USA. But anyway, you need to choose the mode of operation. Is it through own sales force or through third-party channels, or is it a hybrid? Usually what we have discovered is that the kind of a hybrid model works the best for various reasons. We just recently completed a project for a European fairly large machinery supplier which manufactures charging stations for EVs, so electric vehicles. It's an extremely fast-growing business, not only Thailand, but in many other countries too. And what we learned was there was one particular project that they had already bidded. The client was one of the state-owned Thai enterprises, one of the top companies in this country. So you can imagine, even if you are a relatively large European company, you come to Thailand, you have nobody here, just an agent, kind of not necessarily a man and a dog type of a setup, but almost. And the agents happen to be from the same home country as the manufacturer themselves, so not Thai. So a company making EV charging solutions, and they were bidding for a very large project in Thailand, which was the owner would be one of the state-owned large Thai enterprises. So if you are, like in this case, they didn't know the market, they didn't have the right channels in the market, they didn't have the right partners in the market. So obviously they didn't win the contract.
Surprise.
But it's not only, in my opinion, a question of who is representing them or how capable they are. We're also talking here about the local trading habits of business and business culture. Particularly in large projects, state-owned enterprises, we all know how the business is done. So there are drastic differences between Europe and Thailand in these regards. And if you want to sell to such projects, you have to live with the fact that the market operates differently. You have to sell differently. You need a different profile of partners who have the access to the high-level decision makers and the kind of lobbying capability in such cases. Otherwise, there's no way you can win business. Now they believe me. So we're actually in process of creating them the go-to-market plan, which includes most likely setting up their own office in this country, but also at the same time appointment of local business partners, both in terms of sales partners, but also service partners, which is equally important.
Yeah, for that business, absolutely. So competitive advantage, then selecting the right markets,
Yes.
selecting the entry strategy, maybe
Yes.
hybrid.
Yes.
Is there anything else? And more importantly, has anything changed over the 30 years that you've been in this business?
Oh, it's a tough question. Well, I think the fundamentals haven't changed. The business culture is the same now than what it was 30 years ago. The ways how business is conducted is exactly the same, no change. But of course, things happen faster now. There is more information available. Now the emergence of the AI into the business changes things. But other than that, I mean, the success criteria, I think, has remained pretty much the same. What do you have to do and how you have to do things if you want to successfully enter a new market in Asia? I don't see much difference, really.
Yeah, really good. So then maybe on a moving forward, and few questions on a personal level is that okay, you're living in this new environment, something that you created over the years for you, and obviously relationships here play a big role for you professionally and personally. But how do you take care of your own life and own priorities in this kind of new environment? How is it living in this kind of new environment?
Difficult to answer, really. It's well, I'm 64 years old. Lived in many different countries, had challenging jobs. Learned to live with pressure over the years. So I guess it's you kind of adapt your lifestyle and things that you do a bit unknowingly. I haven't made really kind of conscious decisions. So how should I live and what should I do, or where should I put my priorities? It's kind of emerged. You know, as long as you live here, you learn things, you meet new people, you start doing new things. Obviously, when you do grow older, like we all do, you have to start taking care of your health more than that. That's maybe something that I have taken a conscious decision to pay attention to my health. So I try to exercise more regularly, still not as regularly as I should, but nevertheless. Yeah, maybe something like this.
So
actually, I do enjoy my life. It's in this job role that I have with Asian Insiders, there's a great deal of flexibility, and I can also afford myself to live a lifestyle whereby I spend the best part of the year in Thailand, but also the best part of the year in Finland. So it's like 7 months in Thailand, and 5 months of the year in Finland, which I feel privileged about to be able to live like this.
Yeah, really good. So as I mentioned, that's a setup that you really wanted to build for yourself, and you managed to do that over the years. But at what point of your business career you started paying more attention to actually health, your mental and physical health? Curious for the audience here.
Yeah, I think I don't really have any serious health issues as such, but I do go to annual health checks in the hospital, and the doctors tell me what should I do and what I shouldn't do, you know, the normal stuff. And my wife is much more health conscious than I am. So she keeps pushing me. So I think she's been the one who changed me in that sense, that I started to look at the health issues also personally more seriously. But I can't put my finger into when it started. I think it's been a kind of gradual change in daily life.
Do you think working in sunshine is more healthy than working in darkness?
Absolutely. I mean, mentally particularly. Yeah. I still, this time of the year, when I open the curtains in the morning, I always do like, sun is shining. And my wife tells me that, isn't it always shining? And I said, that's the point, my darling.
Really good, really good. I like that. Okay. And then I'm still curious to ask about the relationships. You know, the 30 years perspective in international business and all these countries is is impressive already. But how do you see, or are there any examples that you can share of relationships that have carried over the years and are still like very valuable to you? Or how to approach building relationships that are long-lasting for this type of business?
I mean, I think there are two aspects here. One is kind of the daily work aspect, people that you work with, that share your work somehow. That is extremely valuable. Not only in Asia, but also outside of Asia. We do projects on all continents, actually. And it's based on the relationships that I just happen to have created over the years. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do it. It'd be very, very difficult, or it would be risky at least. Because consulting is a trust business, like we said in the beginning. And it counts also for your internal work. Who do you work with? Who do you trust as your partner? And that trust can only be gained through experience. So that's one side. The second side is the connections and the networks that I have created over the years with the local community, local business community, also government officials. Again, you can have different types of networks. You can have contacts. You know people by name, but I don't call them as your network. They become as part of your network when you have their personal mobile phone numbers. And that's
the important
the value.
Element. Yeah,
that's the value. Yeah. And in our business, these kind of networks it's the basis, it's the cornerstone for everything we do. Because without the network, people you can talk to, get advice from, in this business you cannot survive. This is not Googling business. This is an interaction business. You need to be able to talk to people in order to learn about the market, in order to learn about the business opportunities from the point of view of individual clients of ours. And as the clients come from various industries, it's essential to have a very wide network. So that's something I do still in kind of intentionally. So I do go to events, or go to embassy functions, just in order to meet interesting people. So kind of maintain the network and expand it continuously.
Yeah, really good. So Jari, we are moving to the final part of this podcast. So I have 3 questions that I want to ask from all the guests visiting here.
Yeah.
And since we are in the focus forward world, and you as a have a chance to do whatever you like at this point of your life and career. So my first question actually is that, how do you find focus in life?
It needs to be in balance. It can't be simply work. It's a balancing act. One of the things that I have always thought it's important for me that I do take breaks from work. So completely forget about consulting work, anything to do with it, to something completely different a long enough time. I think there are scientific evidences that people need to have at least 3 weeks break from their work every year. Because if it's shorter than that, your brain doesn't get the break that it needs. So for me, it's been important that I do take this. I have always made sure that I take long enough holidays every year. Secondly, that I have hobbies that keep my mind occupied with something completely different. So for me, it's playing golf, it's playing guitar, although I'm not a good player, but that's not important. What is important that I do enjoy it. Even my wife enjoys it.
Really good.
At least occasionally.
Really good.
Yeah, and lastly, these the exercising. So life has to be in balance, and it's not only work. Work is important, but it can't be overruling your life. That's what I think is important.
Really good. And the second question is that, what are you looking forward to next?
Yeah, people ask me that when I'm going to retire.
So we are not.
And I have no plan. I've said every time I say that I will continue doing this as long as I enjoy it, or as long as my health allows me to. But if these two factors remain unchanged, I have absolutely no plan to retire any particular year or day. So I continue as long as I want and I can. So, because this is enjoyable life. It's I reached the point that I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing, both personally and also business-wise.
Really good. Really good. And the third question is that, what is your number one growth advice to anyone that actually feels stuck in life or business right now?
Again, an excellent question. I haven't been myself in such situation, so I cannot kind of from personal experience.
Flow state, 64 years.
Well, of course you have challenges and stuff, but what I think would be good for anybody in that kind of a position is that talk to people. If you know people who've been probably in somewhat similar situations, so how did they manage to get over the problems? Business-wise, there seems to be kind of a mental barrier in some people's between the ears that they think talking to consultants is a sign of weakness. And that I think is completely wrong. It's a wrong attitude. Because, if we have on one side of the equation somebody who's been working for his or her entire life for one company, or maybe a handful of companies, so you can question the type of experience that they have gathered working for one or few organizations only. And then if you have at the other end of the spectrum somebody like me who's done intimate work with 500 companies, who struggled, who had consultants. We have two types of clients. We have the ones who say, Houston, we have a problem. They have to talk to somebody else to solve their problem. And then we have the ones who say we have a dream. But both cases are equally challenging. And if you are able to navigate through the challenges and provide them solutions and success at the end of the day, so you can ask yourself, if you don't want to talk to somebody like that why not? Because my message always to potential new clients is that talk to me. I'm very happy to share my opinions and experience. It doesn't cost you a penny. And if it leads to something that we can do together, then that's a bonus, but it's not guaranteed. It's never guaranteed.
Yeah. Talking about dreams, you get even my final question. This is the fourth question of Focus Forward, special only for you. And since you mentioned that you are doing golf and you also play guitar, so final question to you is that, would you rather have dinner with Tiger Woods or Jimi Hendrix?
Oof. I would like to rephrase the question that I would like to find somebody, a golf player who plays guitar. That would be the optimum.
That's a great one. So we will add your contact details and links to the show notes for sure.
Thank you very much.
But thank you very much for joining today, and we give it a high five. Thank you for this one. Really great to have you. Thank you, Jari.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Pleasure.
Okay, that was it. I hope you learned something new about trade promotion and international relationships today. Next, please hit like, hit subscribe, give us feedback, and check the show notes. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you very much.